All right, let's do these day 5 notes on linear equations. So, the rise is the change in y. You represent it with a little triangle y. Triangle means change in, so change in y, or the vertical change. Run is going to be the change in x. It's a triangle x, or the horizontal change. Okay. So slope is a bunch of things. So first off, slope is rise over run. You might remember that from Algebra 1. It's also known as the change in y over the change in x. So the triangle y over the triangle x. And another way to think about it is your formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so go ahead and get that down. All right, so the different types of slope that we're going to see are positive, negative, and zero and undefined. Okay, so positive is going up and to the right. Okay, up and to the right. Negative is going to go down and to the right. Okay, zero slope is flat horizontal. And then undefined is vertical. Okay. Now, one way you can remember that horizontal, left to right, is zero is this way. Horizontal. Horizontal has a z in it, so horizontal from left to right is a zero slope. Okay. Undefined is straight up and down. Undefined is up and down. So maybe that'll help you, okay? Another way to think about it is if you got a guy walking, okay, here's my stick guy. He's walking always from left to right, okay, kind of like an old school Mario game. If he's walking up to the right, okay, that's positive. If he is walking down to the right, that's negative, okay? But if he's just standing on a flat surface, okay, he's just standing there, that takes zero effort. Zero effort to stand is a zero slope, okay? But if you have a vertical up and down line, is he able to even stand on it? No, he is unable to stand, and if it is unable, it is undefined. Okay, so you got to know positive is up to the right, negative is down to the right, zero is flat horizontal, zero horizontal, and then undefined is unable to be unable to be stood on up and down. So there's that. Okay. Now, moving down a little bit, point slope formula. Okay. So the point slope formula is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Okay, so you want to write that down. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. That might be very familiar from Algebra 1. All right. Oh my goodness. Okay, so vertical lines are always x equals a number. Okay, and then horizontal lines are always y equals a number. Okay. Now we want to mark these figures with parallel lines and perpendicular lines. So parallel looks like this with arrows, arrowheads, I should say. So we know those two are equal because they match. And sorry, those two are parallel because they match. And then on these going up and down, we're going to put two arrowheads to show that they're different, but they're parallel. Okay. Same thing over here. One arrowhead, two arrowheads. Okay. So those are parallels, and we want to also mark the perpendiculars. So we can do that with these little right angles. Cool. And there are no right angles on the other one. So that is good on that one. Okay. Now, you can go ahead and flip to the next page. All right. Now, at the top of your page, it tells you the slope formula. So when you're finding the slope for all these different pairs of points, you're going to do this formula right here, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So remember, whenever you have your 2 points, the first point is x1, comma, y1, and the second point is x2, comma, y2, right? So when I do y2 minus y1, I'm going to do 6 minus 5 on top, and on the bottom, I'm going to do 2 minus 1. Okay. Now, you can type this in the calculator. I always like to press the on button, press number 1, new document, do not save, and add calculator number 1. Now, if you press Control Divide, it'll give you the fraction bar, 6 minus sine 5 on top, go to the bottom, 2 minus sine 1, hit enter, the slope is 1. Okay, do y'all see that on the calculator here? I type it in, it gives me 1, okay? Cool. All right, I want you to try letter E. I'll give you 30 seconds. All right, so you should have had 1 minus 3 on top, negative 4 minus negative 8. Do you see on the bottom that you are subtracting a negative number? So when you type it in, make sure you type it in correctly. You can turn the minus and negative into a plus, but either way, on top you get negative 2, on the bottom you get 4. and that reduces to -1/2, or -0.5 also works. Okay. Now, these next two are tricky, so let's do them together. On M and Mn, the slope of Mn. Okay, so we got -5 minus -5 on top, 3 minus 2 on the bottom. Now, what is -5 minus -5? That's like -5 plus 5, which is 0. And on the bottom, you get 1. Now, what is 0 divided by 1? 0. Okay, so you have a 0 slope if your y values match. And remember, a 0 slope takes 0 effort. It's horizontal. 0 effort to stand on a horizontal line. Cool. 0 has a Z. Horizontal has a Z. 0 looks like an O. Horizontal has an O. Okay. Now, ST down here. Once again, y2 minus y1 is 5 minus negative sine 3 over 6 minus 6. 5 minus -3 is 8 on top. 6 minus 6 is 0 on the bottom. Now, feel free to say it out loud. What is 8 divided by 0? If you just said 0, that's wrong. Okay? Why is it wrong? Okay? 8 divided by 0. Okay? Anytime you see a divided by 0, that is impossible. Okay? You cannot divide an actual number into groups of nothing. Okay, and let me show you what happens in the calculator if you try to do that. Okay, let's do 8 divided by 0 in the calculator. Ready? Here we go. So 8 divided by 0. Calculator says undef, and that means undefined. We've already talked about undefined earlier. It's literally impossible. Doesn't make any sense. So whenever you have a 0 on the bottom, undefined. Okay, so that's what undef really means. It's undefined. Okay, cool. Now let's do the next one. Last one together real quick. On top is 10 minus 2. On the bottom is 3 minus 7. We end up getting 8 on top, -4 on the bottom. That should be -2 as our slope. 8 on top, -4 on the bottom, -2. Okay, so we found all these slopes. We got 1, negative 0.5. We got 0, and we know that 0 slope means it's horizontal. And we know that horizontal lines, okay, if we scroll up a little bit, we just talked about this, horizontal lines are going to be y equals a number. Let's write that down over here. This is one of those y equals a number, right? And then the very next one, okay, well, we know it's undefined slope, and we know undefined slope from way up here is a vertical line. And we know vertical lines from right here are x equals a number, okay? So undefined is our slope. That's going to be vertical, and that's going to be x equals a number, okay? Cool. So last one, the slope was -2, okay? So that's all the information we got from these 5 pairs, okay? Now, I look right below this, and it says write an equation of each of the lines created by those 2 points from above in slope-intercept form. Now remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Now, this is going to be some work. We can do it though. But what we're going to do, to get it into mx plus b form, we need to start with point slope formula. Now, off to the right here, we have what to do when we have a point and a slope. we use this point slope formula. Okay, now on my screen, you can see the blue is where the slope goes, and the green is where the x and the y value of the point go. Okay, now what we need on each of these is a point and a slope. Okay, now what we're going to start off with is AB. Okay, this first one right here. Okay, so let's go back up and let's figure out what was the slope from AB. Well, the slope was 1. So we have a slope of 1, and then we need 1 point. It's going to be point A. Okay, so my slope is 1, my M, and then my point is 1 comma 5. Okay, so my M equals 1, and my point A, we said was 1 comma 5. Okay, so I'm going to plug it into this point slope formula over here. Okay, don't draw that circle. Cool, so let's do this. I'm going to do, I'll write the point slope formula over here. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Okay, so what is y1? This y value right here, y1, is going to be 5. So let's go ahead and write this. Y minus 5 equals, and then m, the slope we had was 1, parentheses, x, and then my x1, my x value over here is 1. So x minus 1. So when you plug stuff in to point slope formula, like this, okay, now all we got to do is distribute this 1. Now when you distribute a 1, it stays the same. So y minus 5 equals x minus 1. And my last step to solve for y is to get rid of this loner minus 5 next to it by doing the opposite. Plus 5, plus 5. So I get y equals x, and then negative 1 plus 5 is 4. That's it. Okay. Let's go to EF. I need a slope and a point from EF. So EF, my slope was negative 0.5. And a point I have is negative 8 comma 3. So my slope is negative 0.5, and my point is negative 8.3. Okay, so I'm going to take that slope, I'm going to take that point, and I'm going to use this point slope formula right here. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to start writing it. Y minus, okay. Now, what is my y value of the point? 3. Equals, now my m, my slope is negative 0.5. Negative 0.5. Okay. Parentheses x minus, and then x1. Now this is kind of tricky. My x value is negative 8. If I'm subtracting a negative 8, you can write it like this, minus negative 8. But usually we don't see minus a negative. That minus a negative usually turns into a plus sign. So the way you'll see it is plus 8. Okay? So is everyone hearing me say this? Okay? When you have this negative here, it's the opposite of your x value. So the opposite of a negative 8, I'm writing right here, is a plus 8. Should make sense, okay? Now, just like last time, your first step is to distribute. So negative 0.5 times x, negative 0.5 times 8. So bring this down. Negative 0.5 times x is negative 0.5x. Now, what is negative 0.5 times 8? If you don't know, calculator can help you. Negative 0.5 times 8. Negative 4. So minus sine 4. Okay. We distribute our slope, and our last step is to get rid of this loner by doing the opposite. The opposite of minus 3 is plus 3. Both sides. So I have y equals negative. Oh, let me move this up a little bit. Negative 0.5x, and then negative 4 plus 3 is negative or minus 1. Okay. And again, if you're not good at this mentally, use your calculator. It's your friend. Okay. All right, we've done 2 of these. I know these can be kind of difficult, lots of steps, but that's how you do it. You take the slope you found, take one of the points, plug it into point slope formula. Okay. Now these next 2 are kind of unique, so let's take a look back on them. Mn. Okay. Now we already said Mn had a 0 slope. 0 slopes are horizontal, and horizontal is y equals the y value. So you tell me at these 2 points, what's the y value? Negative 5, right? So that, since it's a 0 slope, I'm just going to write y equals, and the y values that it shares are negative 5, and that's it. Y equals negative 5. You could plug this into point slope form, but I'm telling you, if you know it's a 0 slope, you're just going to put y equals, because it's horizontal, and then dy values. Y equals negative 5. So again, 0 slope is horizontal. So it's always y equals the y values. So y equals negative 5. Cool. What about ST? Roll it up. Now ST, we said, was undefined slope because there was a 0 on the bottom. 0 cannot be on the bottom. That's impossible. So that's a undefined slope. Undefined is unable to be stood on. It is a vertical line. It is x equals a number. Now you tell me from these 2 points, what is the x value that they share? It's 6. So x equals 6 is the equation. Now this one you cannot plug into point slope formula because there literally is no slope. Okay. So undefined slope is vertical. So that's always x equals the x values. So we said it was x equals 6. All right, hope you have both of those. Moving on to the next one. Whoops. Okay, so the equation of xy. So now we're going to back up. What is the slope we got for xy? So xy gave us a slope of negative 2. So let's scroll down. So we have a slope of negative 2, my bad, and we have a point x of 7, 2. So my m slope is negative 2. My point is 7, 2. Okay, so let's plug it into that point slope formula. Y minus the y value is 2 equals m, which is negative 2, parentheses, x minus the x value is 7. So there's my point slope formula. I'm going to distribute the coefficient. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 7 is positive 14. And then last step to get rid of that minus 2 is to add 2 to both sides. And I get y equals negative 2x plus 16. Okay. Hopefully you have all that down and you know how to take 2 points, get a slope, take one of those points in the slope, plug it into point slope formula, and then solve for y to get the slope intercept form. Cool. All right, scrolling. Now, we want to find out if these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or oblique. Okay. Now, here's how we tell. Okay. Parallel has the same slope. So go ahead and we're going to make some little notes. Actually, we'll do it over here. Okay. So off to the side. So parallel is the same slope. Okay. Perpendicular try to write small. Perpendicular. Okay, is what we call opposite reciprocal slope. Okay. So opposite means you change the plus minus sign, and reciprocal means you flip it. Okay, so opposite means positive negative sign, reciprocal means you flip it. Cool. And then oblique, oh my gosh, not oblique. Oblique is just not parallel or perpendicular. Okay, so let's just look at all the slopes here. So on A, B, C, D, and E. So on A, look at these two slopes. I got negative 2. Now, does everyone know negative 2 means negative 2 over 1? So I got a negative 2 over 1 for my one slope, and then I have a positive 1/2 for my other slope. Now you tell me, look at those two slopes. Did the sign change from negative to positive? It did. Did it flip? It did. That's called perpendicular. Do you see the two changes that have to happen for it to be perpendicular? It can't just flip. It can't just change the sign. It has to be both. Okay. All right, look at letter B. Negative 4, negative 2. Okay. So that's negative 4 over 1. That's negative 2 over 1. If it's in front of x, that's the slope. So negative 4 over 1, negative 2 over 1. Did the sign change? No. Did it flip? No. So this is not perpendicular. And are these slopes the same? No. So it's not perpendicular. It's not parallel. This is called oblique. Okay. Letter C. My slope is 3/4. My slope is 3/4. Are those slopes the exact same? Yeah, buddy, they are. That's parallel. Okay. Letter D. That slope, they're the same. It's parallel. Okay. Now letter E. What? That's not an equation. That's not a slope. But we can still use that y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to get these two slopes. Okay. So I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to do this one. Okay. So y2 minus y1, negative 1 minus 2 over -1 minus -2. Okay, so we get -3 over 1. All right, and now this one, 4 minus 3 over -6 minus -9. 4 minus 3 is 1. -6 minus -3 is like -6 plus 3, 1/3. Okay, now you tell me, is -3 over 1 and +1 over 3, are those opposite reciprocals? Does that change the sign and flip the fraction? Yes, it does. That is perpendicular. Okay, I'll give you a second if you still need to get that down. Do you see how we can tell perpendicular, parallel, and oblique? Perpendicular has to flip the fraction and change the sign. Parallel has to be the exact same. Oblique is just different and not perpendicular. Okay, so that is that. Let's go ahead and move it down, move it down. Find a line parallel to each line passing through the given point. All right, so I'm going to do these a little bit faster because I think we're getting the idea of this, hopefully. So on down here, we're going to be using point slope formula. So parallel means the same slope, right? So what is the slope? 2. So my m equals 2. My point is 1 comma -9. So I'm going to use that point slope formula. Y minus the y value, which is -9, so it's going to be a +9, equals my slope, 2, and that's x minus my x value, 1. Okay. When I distribute this, I'm going to get y plus 9 equals 2x minus 2. And then I get rid of my loner, -9. And -2 minus 9 is -11. The next one's going to be the exact same. Same slope means I'm going to take this slope, m equals -2, and take this point, -2, comma -5. So again, I'm going to do y minus, the y value is -5, turns it into a +5, equals, my slope is -2, parentheses, x minus, my x value is -2, so it changes it into a +2. Distribute the -2, and then get rid of the loner. I know I did that fast, but it's the same steps we've been doing. So I'll let you get that down. All right, let's go on the next one. Now, this is tricky because it's saying that these are perpendicular slopes, okay? So check it out. This slope is -4 over 1, right? So perpendicular means opposite reciprocal slope. What does opposite reciprocal mean? Change the positive/negative sign and then flip. Okay, so for m, instead of -4/1, my m value is going to be, instead of negative, positive. Instead of 4/1, it's going to be 1/4. Okay, what about over here? My slope is -2/1, so my m is going to be positive 1/2. All right, and just like the last two we did, we're going to use a point slope formula. So y minus, the y value is 12, equals 1/4, parentheses, x minus, the x value is -2, turns it into a +2. Let's distribute the 1/4. Y minus 12 equals 1/4 x plus 1/2. And that 1/2 is really going to be 0.5. That's a decimal. Last step, we add 12, the loner, to both sides, and we get 1/4 x plus 12.5. Same thing here. So y minus the opposite of -5, so +5, equals the slope, 1/2. X minus the opposite of -2, so +2. Distribute, and then subtract 5. Once you distribute, you're going to end up with 1/2 x minus 4. Because half of 2 is 1, 1 minus 5 is -4. Okay, I'll give you a second to write that down. My bad. All right, let's graph the following lines. So our slope in front of the x is 2/1, right? A regular 2 means 2/1. So my m is 2/1. My b is 2, right? Because this is y equals mx plus b. Now, go ahead and say it out loud. What do I graph first, the m or the b? It's the b. B for beginning. Okay, y'all, I hope you know that the b is the y-intercept, okay? So on the y-axis, I'm going to find b of +2. So 1, 2, put a point at 2. And you can use the straight edge of your protractor when we're making these straight lines. Don't just draw, freehand. My slope is 2/1. Now, we know that that's rise over run. Rise 2, run 1 to the right. So start at +2, rise 2, rise 1 to the right. Run 1 to the right, sorry. Rise 2, run 1 to the right. Rise 2, run 1 to the right. Okay? And what you want to do is make a straight line through those points, okay? So do your best to make a straight line through those points. Cool. And then my other slope over here is -2/1, which again is my rise over run. My b value on this one is 1. So let's put a point at 1, and this is supposed to rise -2, run 1 to the right. So that means it goes down 2, 1 to the right, down 2, 1 to the right, down 2, 1 to the right. You get the idea. And then we want to make a straight line through these points. Use the straight edge of your protractor, okay? Now, are these parallel, perpendicular, or oblique? Just by looking at these slopes, 2 over 1, negative 2 over 1, even though the sign changes, it does not flip. It is not perpendicular. They're not the exact same. It's not parallel. So what do we call that when they just intersect and they're not perpendicular? Oblique. Okay. Give you a second to write that down. All right, and then let's move it down. Writing equations. Okay, now on all these. Now, by the way, I just realized. Okay, so on your page, this is all messed up, right? Like it says writing equations on one page and then it like cuts off and it goes to the next page, right? So just do your best with the page breaks on this being all messed up, okay? It looks like you can't do 9, 10, and 11. I'll still show them on here though. All right, here we go. So 1, 2, and 3. The slope. So if you pick 2 points, you can count the rise over run. So if you pick these 2 points, it goes up 2 to the right 3. So that's 2 over 3. And it hits the y-axis. So here's the origin. So it hits the y-axis at 2. So if you can count the rise over run, that's the m. And if you can find the y-intercept, that's the b. You just write y equals mx plus b. Do you see how I just wrote 2/3 x plus 2? Okay. Let's do number 2. Pick 2 points on the grid. Now this goes down 2 and then to the right 5. So that's negative 2 over 5. So please be careful. If it goes down to the right, it's negative. Okay. If you rise down, which is weird, but if you rise down, that's a negative slope. And then go to the right. Your y-intercept, now here's the origin. It hits at positive 4. So your slope-intercept form, y equals negative 2 over 5x plus 4. All right. Next one, pick 2 points. Here's a point here. And here's a point here. It looks like this might be a point, but it's not. So from here to here, it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it goes over running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is a 5 over 8 slope. And it hits the y-axis down here. 5 below means negative 5, not positive 5. Okay. So y equals 5 over 8x. And then minus 5. Cool. All right, bring it down here. Now, let's remember something about these types of lines, okay? If it's vertical is always x equals a number, okay? Vertical up and down, x equals, okay? So, and if it's vertical, it's also undefined. You cannot stand on it. It's unable to be stood on. It's undefined, okay? If I can get this to scroll down, that'd be so sweet. Okay, there we go. So the slope is undefined. Now, if it's undefined, and you can see it doesn't cross the y-axis, there's no y-intercept there. It doesn't even touch it, okay? So this is going to be x equals a number, and the x value that it touches at is 6. X equals 6. Okay, now this slope is left to right. It's horizontal. Okay, so that's going to be y equals a number, and the slope is 0 slope, right? So slope is 0, y-intercept is 3 below, that's -3. It's going to be y equals -3, okay? So again, vertical is x equals a number, horizontal is y equals a number. Whatever axis it intercepts, that's the letter you use, okay? And we've already done this. We can do it again. I know you only have 6, 7, and 8, so here we go. The slope is 2/1. It hits at -3, so -3 is right here. Up 2/1, up 2/1, up 2/1. Okay, this is some review from Algebra 1, so hopefully this isn't too difficult. Okay, my y-intercept is 4. That's where I begin, and it's 1/2. So up 1/2, up 1/2. And my lines aren't perfect. It is what it is, okay? Now, y equals, is that horizontal or vertical? Well, on the y-axis, find -3. It goes through there horizontally at -3. Okay? Now, those 3 are the ones on your page. The next 3 are not. I'm still going to show you on here. Maybe you can try to squeeze it in. I mean, you really can. So, I don't know. But here we go. Here's the next 3. Now, if there's no number here, that's a +0. So it starts off at the origin 0, and the slope is -3/1. So down 3, right 1. Down 3, right 1. Okay. X equals -3 goes through the x-axis at -3, so it's going to be a vertical line. And then this last one, the y-intercept is -2, put a point there, and it goes -3/1, down 3, right 1, down 3, right 1. And you can make yourself a nice line through those points. Okay? So, with this information, I know it's a lot, and it's a lot of review, honestly, from Algebra 1. You're going to use this to do the homework. Now, I'm looking at the page of homework, and it's all messed up. Like, the print job is like crazy, okay? So you can just do your best at solving these. Yeah. Do what you can do. Some of these, it's like impossible to do. Like number 4, the line isn't on the graph. I get it, okay? Just do what you can. Like, this is kind of crazy. Okay, maybe I'll get this reprinted, so I guess you'll know if I reprinted it or not. Number 5 doesn't have a grid. That's crazy. Number 6, you could do. Number 7, you might be able to do. Yeah. Okay, so go ahead and do that assignment and make sure you turn it in.